Hello and welcome once again to In Depth, where we take an in-depth look at the stories of the day. Today our focus is once again this week on treatments for COVID-19. We are looking at positive aspects, at recovery rates, because as COVID-19 continues to wreak havoc across the world, scientists and researchers are exploring various avenues to come up with medical treatments that can fight it. One such treatment that's increasingly in focus is plasma therapy. Today on In Depth, we're going to look at what exactly is plasma therapy and how effective is it with COVID-19 critical patients. Let's start first by telling you what exactly is plasma therapy. Here's a special report.
On 17th of June, Delhi Health Minister Satyendra Jain tested positive for coronavirus, and by June 19th, Jain's condition deteriorated.
CT स्कैन उनका लेटेस्ट जो आया उसमें कम होने के बजाय निमोनिया के पैचेस जो उनके लंग्स में थे वो ज़्यादा बढ़ गए. सुबह से उनको थकान और ज़्यादा और गिडीनेस बढ़ने लगी.
He was first put on oxygen support and was then administered plasma therapy, following which his parameters have improved. And Jain is now out of the ICU. What is plasma therapy? The approach, called convalescent plasma, uses part of the blood that contains antibodies. Antibodies are proteins found in blood plasma that attack bacteria or specific virus like COVID-19. By giving these pre-made antibodies to a patient, it means that they don't have to produce their own. Importantly, these antibodies are procured from COVID-19 survivors, those who defeated the virus and formed antibodies against it. Clinical trials for convalescent plasma therapy began in India in May, and as of now, the Indian Council of Medical Research does not recommend this as a treatment option outside of clinical trials. The plasma of a recovered healthy donor, ideally 14 to 28 days after the first negative test post-infection, contains antibodies that help fight the virus if transfused in a sick patient. This is not the first time convalescent plasma therapy is being considered as treatment for viral infections. During the 1918 flu pandemic, the therapy was used experimentally. Later in 2009 as well, it was used as treatment during H1N1 infection. In 2014, the WHO had recommended the use of convalescent plasma therapy for Ebola. And in 2015, it was used on people infected with Middle East respiratory syndrome, MERS.
It appears to have been effective in previous epidemics. There seems to have been some good effect during the swine flu, the H1N1 epidemic of 2008-2009.
As blood plasma is immediately available from survivors, many countries are already using the therapy in the hope to stem mortality rates. Not yet proven, but seen to have a positive impact, convalescent plasma therapy has already been approved by the American Food and Drug Administration. In India, Kerala was the first state to start experimenting with blood plasma. It is important to note that blood plasma therapy is not the first line of treatment. Only if the patient is experiencing lung collapse and is on ventilator support, then blood plasma therapy could be useful. But until the world finds itself a cure, a vaccine, transferring immunity from those who fought and won to those who are fighting and struggling could be a small silver lining in these bleak times.
And joining me now is Dr. Sandeep Budiraja, Group Medical Director, Max Healthcare, to give us a sense of what exactly is happening with plasma therapy. Thank you very much, Dr. Budiraja, for joining us. Give our viewers a sense of plasma therapy and how it's being used with COVID-19 patients.
So, as we know, there is, as of date, no specific treatment for COVID. So, a lot of therapies are being tried under the category of investigational or experimental therapies, and plasma therapy is one such. And as was already spoken about, it's not a new thing. It's been used for centuries. In fact, in 1918 Spanish epidemic flu, it was also used. Essentially, when we don't have a cure, what we want to do as a desperate measure is give a passive immunity to the patient. So antibodies which are formed from a recovering patient can be now used to kill the virus in a person who's fighting this disease. So when we started using it, by that time, already there had been a lot of trials conducted on plasma elsewhere in the world, including US, and FDA had given approval. So the initial patients where it was used was done as a part of study, which was approved either by ICMR or the DCGI. Now, we are still yet to come out officially with the results of those studies, and many of these presently in India are ongoing. So we are not privy to the results, but the experience of physicians and researchers who have been using this form of treatment in COVID-19 have been encouraging. Of course, we still have to wait for formal reports to come in. Now, the other drugs which are also available are still in the experimental phase. So what we need to understand is it's a combination of treatment when rightly used at right time causes a positive or beneficial effect. So we can't really say that patients who are given plasma and they survive or come out of it is completely because of plasma. That's one thing to understand. Second thing is the timing. Now, initially, it was thought that it is to be reserved for people who are critically ill, patients who go on to ventilators and then as a last resort use plasma. Actually, that's not true. More and more studies have shown that earlier stage of COVID, when you use plasma, the better is the response. In fact, if you see the Ministry of Health guidelines, which have come on 13th of June 2020, clearly put convalescent plasma therapy as an off-label indication in patients who have moderate disease. In fact, ICM approved plasma for this particular condition. So the moment patients go on to oxygen and you see their need for oxygen is gradually going up, that's the time when you use plasma with a hope that maybe we can prevent this patient from going onto a ventilator.
But it's not, Dr. Budhiraja, presumably foolproof, because we've had cases in Mumbai, for example, where patients have not fully recovered even after plasma therapy. So it is yet another attempt, possibly, to try and ensure that a patient doesn't go on a ventilator. Am I correct?
Absolutely correct. And that's what we want to emphasize and focus. Please do not consider plasma as a magic bullet, that you give it and the patient will survive. No, right selection of patient is very important. The level of antibodies in the plasma which you transfuse is also a very critical factor. And ultimately, let me tell you, it's a multiple approaches in the treatment, including steroids, including the oxygen delivery, the ventilatory support, other antiviral medications. So it's a combination which will help the patient. Let's clearly understand that we can't say that plasma works for all patients or it's a magic bullet, clearly.
You know, at what stage do you believe a patient or his family should push for plasma therapy, and how easy are you finding it to get the donors who will allow you to go ahead with plasma therapy on a larger scale than you are at the moment?
When it started 2 months back, hardly anybody was aware of it. And then because of the publicity of plasma therapy as a potential therapy, because at that time these antivirals were not available in the country, so it was being projected as, you know, the cure, the ultimate weapon against COVID. So a lot of people actually started asking for plasma where even it was not indicated. So either in a very mild disease or patients who were terminally ill and dying of COVID, we need to understand that in these two extreme situations, plasma is not indicated. So a lot of education went, I think social media, TV, newspapers played a big role in educating people as to role of plasma. And now people definitely proactively, the relatives of patients who are admitted, they do ask us, and we tell them that, look, either this is the right time to use it or not the right time to use it. That's number one. Number two, we have also put protocols in place where before discharge, a person who is recovered from COVID and is going home, that's the time we sort of counsel them, look, you have survived this illness, you have become a COVID survivor, now you can actually, after 2 weeks or so is the time when you can return it and actually save more lives. So that counseling is very important because people are receptive at that stage. And these are the ones who become potential donors. Because what we have seen is donation of plasma is still a roadblock. A lot of people do not come forward to do donation, and they have to be counseled, they have to be made to understand that it's a very simple, benign, innocuous process of giving plasma from your body. It causes no side effects, and when given to a patient, it can be sometimes be life-saving procedure.
You know, that's what I wanted to ask, because a number of people who may be interested in donating for plasma therapy are worried about side effects. You're clarifying there is no side effect for someone who becomes a plasma donor. Am I correct?
Yeah, so there is no side effect, but there's an apprehension. There's a concern in a person's mind that, I have fought this illness, gotten home from a hospital. Now, if I come back to hospital to give plasma, will I contact infection again? So that's the biggest concern in people's mind. Answer to that is no. We don't know how long the protective antibodies will last, but definitely they will last for several months. So if a person who's been discharged 2 weeks back, coming back to hospital to just donate plasma, will not give you a repeat infection. That's number one. Concern number two is what all tests will be done on me. Obviously, before we make you an eligible donor, there are certain tests which are routinely required for any blood donation, which are required for plasma donation also. So we look for things like whether you have any infections like HIV, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, a COVID test would be done again. So those are baseline tests which will be done. We ideally should also check the levels of antibody in this person's plasma before we take it. Because if the plasma antibodies levels are not good, then this plasma will not be very effective for the potential patient. Third concern they have is how long the procedure will last. Can I get any complications? Will I have bleeding? Answer to that is, in this, the process is called plasmapheresis, where you are connected to a machine which just takes out your plasma, which is the liquid component of blood, and rest of the blood goes back into your body. The process takes about 30 to 40 minutes, and we take a maximum of 500 ml of plasma, which is taken out, and after that you go back home. Of course, there are certain age groups where we will not take. So very young people, less than 18, or old people above 60 years, we will not take. Women who have had babies, multiparous women, are not permissible to be a donors. So other than that, if a person has recovered, is a healthy person, his veins are good, which are examined before, the process is pretty simple process. And as I said, you take out 500 ml of plasma. This actually can be used for 2 patients. So actually one donation potentially can save 2 lives.
I think that is very, very significant, Dr. Budiraja. I'm glad that you have cleared so many of the apprehensions that people may have if they want to be plasma donors. Thank you so much, Doctor, for joining us and explaining to us in such detail why perhaps the time has come for more and more people to step forward and become plasma donors. Time now for a short break on In Depth. We've discussed what exactly is plasma therapy and how it works. But what about the donors themselves? How do you find one, and who are the donors at the moment? Stay tuned. Is the focus today in the battle against COVID-19. Now, plasma therapy is still in the clinical trial phase. Only a few hospitals are authorized to administer it under the guidelines prescribed by the Indian Council of Medical Research. And while it has emerged as a promising treatment for serious COVID patients, the task of finding a donor is not an easy one. Take a look.
Soon after the ICMR approved the use of plasma therapy for seriously ill patients, members of Tablighi Jamaat hit the headlines once again. Earlier made to seem that they were responsible for spreading the virus across the country, now there were over 250 Jamaat members who were donating their plasma in the national capital and other parts of India to save other lives.
बहुत ज़्यादा खुशी हो रही थी प्लाज्मा देते समय कि मैं अपने देश के काम आ रहा हूं और अपने हिंदुस्तानी भाई को ठीक करने में मेरा प्लाज्मा लिया जा रहा है. इससे ज़्यादा खुशी की कोई और बात नहीं हो सकती मेरे लिए.
One of the first plasma donors in the country was 23-year-old Smruti Thakkar of Ahmedabad. She had returned from Paris on one of the last flights landing in Ahmedabad, and 3 days later, she tested positive for corona. When she recovered, she decided she would donate her plasma.
मैंने सोचा कि नहीं, ये मेरी सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी भी है, एंड जैसे ही मेरे रिपोर्ट्स नॉर्मल है एंड माय हेल्थ इज़ रियली गुड, तो आई थिंक मुझे ये करना चाहिए.
In Delhi, it was in the last week of April that the government received permission to start clinical trials for convalescent plasma therapy on serious patients. But getting donors to come forward remains a challenge. According to reports, by 27th of May, out of the 440 people who were contacted by the Delhi government to donate plasma, only about 15 agreed.
एक मरीज से मैं भी बात कर रहा हूँ, मेरी टीम भी बात कर रही है और उन्हें प्रोत्साहन देते हैं कि आप डोनेट कीजिए.
While governments and hospitals have been trying hard to motivate patients who have recovered to donate plasma, it is finally up to the patients' families to arrange for donors. A right donor, as per the criteria, is a healthy person in the age group of 18 to 60 years with no comorbidities. The donor should have crossed 3 weeks after recovery and tested negative for Covid-19 twice. Filling this gap are groups like KAB Welfare Foundation and websites like Dhoond.com that aim to make the process of matching COVID-19 patients with potential plasma donors smart and seamless. Though they are not involved in the medical aspect of the process, they connect prospective donors to patients whose doctors may have recommended the treatment.
And joining me now is Vivek Jain, India head of the KAB Welfare Foundation, which is helping arrange plasma donors free of cost. Thank you so much, Mr. Jain, for joining us. Give us a sense of how easy has it been for you to get plasma donors for patients who are battling with COVID-19?
Thanks, Mr. Rajdeep, for inviting me on your show. When the pandemic was started in late March in India, our KAB Welfare Foundation team was already engaged in blood donation and other allied activities. So gradually, when Delhi government got approval for plasma therapy in the last week of April, our team led by our founder, Ms. Bhavna Arora, started thinking on how to address this situation whereby we will be needing more plasma donors to save lives. So for that, we started to understand the whole concept of plasma donation, and we found it out that with the support of the government, that will be the best way to do it. And since we were already having a database of donors, blood donors, and some of them became COVID positive, so we started motivating them in the meantime, so that they can start understanding the process how plasma donation can be done. It's not much difference. It's not much of a difference than the platelet donation. So by 15th of May, we made the ecosystem whereby we started collecting prescriptions from the needy patient's family, and we used to study. We used to find out whether the hospitals which are doing COVID plasma therapy are authorized to do or not. And after going through, we just handed over those case studies to the Delhi government, and from there, the Delhi government straight away share the details of the donors to the needy families. This was going fine, but since last few days, suddenly there is a spurt of demand for plasma therapy, and the number of hospitals started doing has increased to number 10 approximately in Delhi NCR, and because of that, there is sudden influx of requirement, and from each and every corner, that we need a plasma donor, and the most difficult part of it was to convince a donor.
So how difficult, so at the moment, do you have sufficient number of donors, or do you need more? Would you like to make an appeal for more people to join in?
Absolutely. We are facing acute shortage of plasma donors because of their fears. So hereby we appeal through your channel that come in large numbers, save lives. It is that time that we should show that we are together.
So how can someone, if someone today watching this program, Mr. Jain, wants to donate, is there a number, is there a way they can contact you?
Yeah, they can contact us through our Facebook page, KAB Welfare Foundation, and they can call us on 98100 And we are having a Google form also. We have made a Google form also for the same, and we have circulated it on our Facebook pages so that people can go and fill there and be a potential donors.
And how many? There's the KAB Foundation. We are told that there is a foundation called Dhoond. There are other foundations also now working in the field. You
Yeah.
focus only on Delhi, am I correct? If I am a patient in Mumbai or Chennai, can you help them also?
No, we are focusing only on Delhi NCR because we want to work with the system.
Okay.
Because since it's a clinical trial, there is no set, you can say it's not the tried and tested method, it's just hit and trial thing. So we don't want to engage ourselves into a scenario whereby we cannot be sure of lots of, you can say, protocols. So for that matter, Delhi government supported us a lot in this. They
Right.
keep on telling us how to do and what to do.
Okay, so overall what you're telling me from what I gather is that what you're looking for is now more donors, because now there is an even greater demand for plasma therapy than before. And all your donors, no side effects. Am I correct? Dr. Budhiraja
Yeah.
told us also earlier, no side
Yeah,
effects.
absolutely. Absolutely. I myself is a regular blood and platelet donor.
Right.
If we keep our immunity levels as a donor, if we keep our immunity level up to the optimum level, there is no problem.
Okay.
And a recovered patient can always donate.
Okay. So those are very positive thoughts that you've given us.
I would like to.
Yes, very quickly.
अपने रक्त को किसी की रगों में बहने का मौका दो, फिर देखो जिंदगी कितनी खूबसूरत है.
Arey Vah. Arey Vah. Very nice. Well, we hope that like Indians have donated blood in the past, the next step is that you should be more than open if you can to donate for plasma therapy. Thanks very much, Mr. Jain, for joining us. As we said, in depth right through this week is going to look at ways that we can conquer and fight back against COVID-19. That's the positive spirit in which we are going to do the programs this week. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.
Hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.